A lot of people who have just found me in the last couple of years probably don't know this, but back in 2016, I wrote a book called Viralnomics that was actually the #1 marketing book in the world for some time. And it's still kind of this underground, like, people deep in the marketing world know about it and pass it on. Because it talks about all of the stuff that doesn't change with social media. It talks about the humans who use social media and why they use it and how to actually produce messages that spread, not based off of the algorithm, but based off of how humans operate and their own desires. And this is a presentation that I wanted to share with you from a big conference that I put on a number of years ago, where I share the main principles from that book, Viralnomics. And if you're at all interested in social media, if you've seen my social media, then I think that you'll really like this. And it's one of the few kind of live talks that I have recorded over the years as well. I've done a lot of it, but I haven't recorded a lot of it. And so hope that you really enjoy this, I don't know, lecture, talk, I don't know what to call it. And I'll be back afterwards to recommend another episode for you when you're done. What I really want to encourage today is that you guys start to see things differently. You guys start to see what everybody else is doing online and you say, okay, well, what are they actually doing? Do they actually know what they're talking about? Because what you'll soon probably find out is most of them don't. Most of the things that people do in terms of internet marketing, in terms of viral marketing, in terms of social media, are simply copying from somebody else because they see somebody else that they think is doing well. But we all know that social media is simply a matter of us comparing our bloopers to other people's highlight reels. Right? Perception is not reality, but perception is what we see. And perception is what affects our own self-equity, or perceived self-equity. So these 4 ideas that I go over are all in my book, Viralnomics, that kind of builds the entire book. But of course, I only have 45 minutes to talk to you guys, so if you do want to learn more about it, the book is, I mean, it's my passion project. This thing took me like 6 years to put together. I think it went through 9 variations. It beat me down so much, you guys don't even know. But I really do love it, and I really do want to share it with as many people as possible. So that's at the back of the room for you. So what are the 4 big ideas that we're going to cover today? Number 1, curating fusion. Number 2, the IIIAF drug, which is the biggest, most powerful, most common drug on the planet, that every single one of you is addicted to, that most people don't even think of. Number 3, filter bubbles. Number 4, the strength of weak ties. You guys ready to get going? Say yes.
Yes.
So curating fusion. This is a pub that's right around the corner from my wife's parents' house. We were there for a couple weeks while we welcomed everyone. It was full of dandelions. Now, it's a pub full of dandelions, and if I was able to take a wider picture with a better phone, which I don't have, then you'd be able to see it was a pretty big pub full of a lot of dandelions. But what do you see straight down the middle of it right there? Somebody go up there and hand me up. It's a pathway. Does anybody know what that pathway is called? Something called a desire path. This concept is fascinating. Because you guys walk outside and you'll see desire paths everywhere. Design is right angles. Design is what we force people to try to do. User experience is what they actually do. User experience is the desire path. You see this everywhere. Everybody's cutting corners. Nobody walks in right angles. Nobody goes down exactly what they're going to do. So I did some research and I looked at whether anybody was actually designing anything for city development, for campus development, using desire paths, kind of flipping. Instead of all of these designers saying to people, hey, this is exactly how we want you to walk. Was there anybody out there who was actually watching how people walked and then designing around them? This is the University of Michigan campus. It's nuts, right? What do you see? You don't see a right angle. And it looks pretty chaotic. But what happened here is when they were designing this campus, and there's lots of examples, if you guys search for designer paths in architecture and in city design, you'll see more and more of this. What architects are starting to do is they're opening up space and actually watching how people use it.
And then they're starting to manipulate the rest of their design around how people are actually using that space. So if they have a pathway that they think is going to get people from A to E, and they start seeing people hanging out there having their lunch, well, they're going to completely change that space. They're going to put more garbage bins, they're going to put pub benches, they're going to put that type of thing. We're starting to see that a lot in cities. So why the heck am I bringing this up? That was a climax. Let's see if it works out to that. This is your group in your gym. This dude, at night, goes to a barn with his buddies. He plays the drums, his buddy plays the guitar, and they jam out. Plays in a rock band, they play some local gigs, he just loves to do it. This dude actually loves woodworking, carpentry. Yeah, he's an accountant, but like, he loves carpentry. She's a hobby stand-up comedian. It's pretty funny, like Amy Schumer-esque or something, right? I made this up. This is a hilarious stock photo. But the reality of it is, every single person that you work with in a gym is an individual. And they all have their own lives away from the gym that they love doing. And you're trying to force your way on them. You're trying to force your marketing on these people. Maybe you know who this is? What's the name? Okay, so that's funny. I didn't actually know what his name was. I knew he was not because I never watched the show. Don Draper, that's his name. I was actually asking. What's his name? There you go, John Hamm. So it's John Hamm who plays Don Draper in Mad Men. Thank you, everybody. Now. What a lot of people don't realize is just how easy advertising and marketing is compared to how it used to be. Do you guys know, like, in the Mad Men era, how hard marketing was? Let me walk you through what these people had to do. They had a product. They had to think about who that product might be for. They had to go to a couple central services and buy a mailing list, and like an actual mailing list, like not a mailing list. They had to buy a mailing list of people who fit that general demographic, women who just had a baby, that they trust that this company has. They then had to design some sort of an advertisement or copy letter that they then sent to a test mailing of that list that they have to purchase, right? They then had to pay to send a mailing out to all these people. In that mailing was some sort of an offer with serrated edges that the person who got the offer had to cut out, write in their name and information, put it back in an envelope with a stamp, and mail it back. Then that company had to take in all of that information. They had to count up all of these responses. They had to do statistical analysis of all these responses. And they had to see whether this was an appropriate mailing to then invest more money into. What do we have to do today? We go click, 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 Facebook. Give me 1 million people who meet my exact target demographics, who read the magazines my people like, right? Who are the exact age, gender, who have these interests that my people like. It's easy for us now. But the hardest part, the hardest thing that we need to do now is we need to diffuse into our people's communities. We need to be the ones who actually look deeper and say, okay, what are these people actually interested in? Where do these people hang out? Instead of trying to stop them from what they're doing, yell, put your hand up, and pay attention to you. What we need to do, we need to just join the flow, right? We need to join them where they are. We need to enter ourselves in their communities. Every single, we're in a very unique situation in the fitness industry because every single demographic in the planet needs a fitness expert. And you know, I ask people when I'm working with people, I'm saying, hey, you know, find your niche, integrate yourself into the community. They're like, okay, I'm women who are interested in fat loss, so I'm going to go join a community of women who like women's health. Like, yeah, you and 10 million other trainers. Dig deeper. What magazines do your people read? Is there a seemingly arbitrary random amount of these women who like homemaking, for example? Can you then go to communities that already exist? People have already aligned themselves into these communities. You don't have to search it. integrate yourself into there, and then start putting out information. For example, here's 10 ways that busy moms and homemakers can sleep. And put out that type of information. You can be there in those communities, you can answer questions. I just made up that example, but it works for musicians, it works for anything you want. And there's all of these communities that exist. You just have to understand, you have to dig deep enough to think about what your people actually want. Join those communities, integrate yourself into them, diffuse into them, and just move forward. That's the first big idea for you, curating fusion. Number 2, IIIAF drug. Now, I made a pretty bold, ridiculous statement when I started this presentation, didn't I? That every single one of you is addicted to this drug that you didn't actually know existed, unless you've already read my book, which some of you might know existed. The IIIAF drug actually explains all of the really silly habits that we take online, like doublets. But it also explains basically everything that we do online in public social networks. So if you won't get what gets posted on Facebook, does it still count as a workout? It's just inside. It's my public service notice. Everything that we do online is an act of selective self-representation. Selective self-representation. What we do is what we want other people to think of us. How I feel my self-worth has nothing to do with what you think of me. Now, if I think that you think that I'm smart, my self-worth is high. Even if you think that I'm an idiot, as long as I think that you think that I'm smart. You guys see how this carries over to social media now? Everything is a perception. It's really, really cool. So what's the IIIAF drug? Interesting, intelligent, intellectual, attractive, and fun. If you think about what you post on Facebook, now if you're doing it from a pure marketing standpoint, it's kind of the outlier here, but if you think about what you post on Facebook and you start looking at what other people, by the way, maybe Facebook is all that matters. We can argue about why Snapchat is hilariously dead and how I called that like a year ago, but that's a different conversation. But we'll talk about Facebook now just because I figure everybody's probably on it. You can look at your feed and look at what people are posting and I'm doing it from a purely marketing standpoint. And you can say every single one of them is trying to feel like they appear in one of these ways. Right? And that's a drug. And that has been shown to be a drug. The earliest studies of this related to computer-mediated communication date back to 1997. We've known since 1997 that selective self-representation related to computer-mediated communication in 1997 leads to a hit of dopamine from the nucleus accumbens, from those receptors in our head that makes us feel good. Does anybody know what happens when you get a little bit of dopamine? What happens next?
You want more. You want to hit dopamine.
Right?
Yeah.
It's addictive. It's a chemical. What does heroin do? What blows your serotonin and dopamine levels? Yeah. I'm not saying that social media is heroin, but it's a very similar kind of pathway. It's a very similar addictive pathway. And so if you get this hit of feel-good, of selective self-representation of dopamine, they're all synonyms in my world. If you get that hit of that, you want more. So you keep doing more, so you keep posting more, so you keep doing these things online where you're showing your workouts, where you're posting doublets. One of the best ways to understand when somebody is reaching out for help, or what somebody is not confident about themselves, is to pay attention to what they post about. People don't post about things they're confident. That guy posting pictures of him with a nice car, posting pictures holding up dollar bills, that bro popping bottles at the club, that is not the bro who can afford to pop bottles at the club. Right? We don't boast about things that we're confident about ourselves with. So how can you support people? You can recognize them. You can recognize that when somebody is putting out a post on Facebook that you might first look at and be like, that's kind of a jokey thing to do. They're actually reaching out for support. And there's pretty interesting ramifications about this. So perception is not equal, perception is greater than reality in this. Reality actually doesn't really matter in this world. And like, I'm talking about social media, but this is real life too. I mean, how many people, throw up your hand right now, has a friend of theirs that boasts about something when you know it's not quite true? Put up your hand. Right? And so what can you do to support your friend? You can just smile, support them. And then what can you do that they don't really know you're doing? You can give them or help them and assist them in that thing, maybe later on down the road, in that area what they were boasting about, because that's actually what they need help with. That's how we make really powerful, impactful impressions upon people's lives. I talked about how powerful perceived social support is. When you see somebody that's kind of boasting online, and you're the one who's actually reaching out, helping them about that thing, you're supporting them with a like or a comment or a share. Again, going back to the research, and I'd be happy to share these studies with you, but perceived social support in response to social media in the form of likes, comments, and shares has been shown to offset compensatory health behaviors or negative health behaviors, smoking, alcohol, and overeating. I'll say that again. Supporting somebody, recognizing somebody when they're reaching out for support on social media, number one, and providing them that support or that perceived support has been shown empirically without a shadow of a doubt to offset compensatory behaviors like nicotine, alcohol, and overeating. Throw business aside. You liking somebody's post because they throw a duck lips might stop them from smoking that night. It's pretty wild. So when it comes to the IIIAF drug, from a societal standpoint, it's a very powerful thing in terms of supporting people. From a business standpoint, though, people buy from those they like, right? How many times have I said people buy trainers, not training? How do you build up rapport with somebody? You support them in ways that others don't support. They think that you're speaking to their inner dialogues. I think that that guy knows me. How do you make an impact in somebody's life? You recognize, you see things that others don't, and you provide support for people that others won't. That's what's impactful. That's when you get a phone call or an email or a Facebook message from somebody that says, hey, I'm finally ready to start training. When can I start? And we've heard that a couple of times in a couple of the talks today. Just the importance. I mean, I'm all about selling. I can talk to you about spin selling till the cows come home. I read all the books on it. I don't want to ever sell anybody anything. What do I do for my programs now? I literally send you an email that says, it's live, go buy it, it's here. I don't sell you anything. Because I've worked so hard on this for so long. Of just trying to recognize, trying to give people what they need when they need it. Trying to support people in ways that others don't. Because then you just become the person that they want to work with. I mean, there's a lot of people who can tell somebody to do exercise. And really, how much of a difference is it going to make to 99% of the population? Whether they do a back squat, front squat, split squat, goblet squat, bodyweight squat, a couple people, name a few more squats. Like, how much of a difference is that really going to make? I mean, really, what matters is that people do it. And whether people do something comes down to what's called self-efficacy, the belief that someone can achieve. Self-efficacy is largely dependent on whether they think that what they're doing is actually going to work. Which again, if you take that back, is whether they believe in the person that's helping them with it when it comes to a coaching or training standpoint. So that's big idea number 2, IIIAF drug. Filter bubbles. You guys like the little sketches I have done? It's pretty cool. So for Viralnomics, I was like, I want to get sketches done because it should be funny. I went on Fiverr and I found somebody who did these sketches. And I pulled like 30 images off Facebook or off Google or like images of me or whatever that I wanted to sketch. And it was $155 to do the 30 sketches like this. So there you go, you can get this kind of stuff done pretty cheap. Very fun. Somebody named Ali Pariser. Ali Pariser was the one who coined the term filter bubble in a book aptly named Filter Bubble. And the book did pretty well, but didn't do that great. And he kind of said, well, I kind of wish more people knew about this. This is a theory on how I think the world operates. It's very important. I'm going to create a website around this to try to get some attention. So he did. That website became the fastest growing website in the history of the internet. It was called Upload. It's a pretty powerful concept. It's all based around the idea that any social media network, anything that you use online, Google, social media networks, anything that's free, you're not the customer, you're the product. You're being packaged and sold. Let me tell you a little bit about what happens when you use these free services, because I think it's very important to understand. Everything that you look at, everything that you view, everything that you click on, everybody who you interact with, they're called click signals. Basically, it's data. This data is then accumulated. It's then sold to a company that you don't even know exists, that are some of the most powerful companies in the world. These things are football fields of data. These companies take that data from the social media network, from Google, from whoever it is. They mix it up with data from commerce that when you use like an air miles or you use like a frequent flyer program or whatever, that's data that's being accumulated. That's why they do those programs. They give you a code to accumulate points so they can track what you buy. That's another source of data. It's just kind of an old school way to do it. They take all of these things, they mix it all together, they do all of this magical analysis of it, they package it so it makes sense, and they sell it back to the ad networks and Facebook. That's why the Facebook ad network is so powerful. The Facebook ad network, most people don't even know this, is actually built primarily on data and not from Facebook. Most of the stuff you put into Facebook is completely useless. If you guys are interested in reading more about this, there was a book called Chaos Monkeys that I read. It was by the guy who basically invented the retargeting pixel and now hates Facebook. He talks very openly about how he hates everybody there. It's pretty funny. But he talks a lot about all of the struggles that Facebook does with data. He's like, oh, using all this advertising. It's like, most of the stuff you put into Facebook is useless information. And they have impossible problems where they have so much useless information and then a tiny little bit of useful information. How do they make sense of it? So most of the stuff that's targeting with Facebook is from stuff you actually outside and other elements of your life, not actually Facebook, which is kind of neat. So everything you do is tracked if you're not paying for a service. There are other services that you can pay for. You can go like incognito in Google, or you can use DuckDuckGo as a search engine. But for the most part, everything you do is tracked. Now, why does that really matter? That really matters because we all exist in filter bubbles. Let me explain this concept to you. What you see, David, on Facebook is different from what I see. Right? What you do when you do a search in Google is very different than what I will see from that same search, even in the same location. Because search has now become reverse search. The feed has now become a type of search engine. These systems are so intelligent that they show you things that you want to see before you even know to ask for it. How many times have you been on Facebook and you see something pop up in your feed and you were just like, wow, I didn't even know that I was interested in that. It was like exactly what you wanted. It's greedy, right? That's what happens. And the reason why it does that is because these advertisers know that the more that they show you things that you are interested in, that you like, that are consonant to your beliefs, right? That go along with what you already believe, the more prone you are to click on a link and buy something, making the advertising service more powerful. So these systems, these algorithms that are created, purposefully develop filter bubbles around us so that we see things that we already believe in, that we already like, and that don't challenge our pre-existing notion of how the world should operate. Now, I'm talking about this from a business standpoint, from a societal standpoint, from a fitness industry standpoint. That's why communities exist where you're like, how the heck could people believe in this? They believe in that because all they see is that. And what we know from the seminal study of cognitive dissonance that was on cults way back when is that the absolute number way, or the absolute number pathway to increase fervor for dissonant or consonant beliefs to run that out is a ton of support in your dissonant beliefs. So if you go into a community where everybody believes in some wacky thing about the fitness industry, and you try to debate them, you don't have a chance. Because every single person there already believes you. We need neutral platforms. That's my public service announcement for the day. From a business standpoint, though, you can now control the network. That's why there's so many Facebook groups. Daniel Friedman, talk about your hybrid FitBiz coaching group and how amazing that's been for you. It's a relatively small community. You've been in the advertising and marketing and business world for 3 times longer than I've been alive. It's an old joke, by the way.
I have t-shirts older than you.
That's an old joke, by the way. When in history would you ever have been able to develop a community of 700 people that see your message over and over and over and over again, basically for free, that look at you as the expert because you're the person they see most, and you can control the conversation. I mean, every single one of us can do this. And it's all because it always comes down to understanding this filter bubble concept. So that's big idea number 3. We need some water, excuse me. It's actually not bad with the voice. I'm glad I didn't go out last night. Big idea number 4, the strength of weak ties. Bye, Molly.
Bye, guys.
Bye, thanks for coming. For those who don't know, Molly and I lived together in the winters. Like, we've actually lived in the same house with our spouses for like 5 months at a time in Costa Rica and Uruguay, so we've seen each other in the best and the worst times. This is Gideon a comment. Does anybody know who Gideon is? Okay. Gideon is the Chicago Golden Gloves boxing champion. He's a group exercise instructor in Chicago. We're actually featuring him on PTC in a little bit, but Gideon was teaching a class one day. And according to him, the classroom that he teaches in was kind of like dimly lit. You can't really see who's in it. But he showed up. He gave a high energy class. He killed it. Everybody loved it. And somebody came up to him after the class and said, I really think that you should enter this contest. And he said, what? She said, I'm a sales representative for Men's Health. It's a division of Logan. We have a contest for the next top trainer. I think you would kill it. I want you to enter it. Gideon entered that competition. Gideon won that competition. This is Gideon's Men's Health DVD. This all happened within about a year and a half. What's hidden in this story is that Gideon showed up and taught that class with that same energy, not knowing who was in the room for years. He showed up every single day. How many thousands of people did he affect with his classes? Where he was just putting in his all, smiling, laughing, making people work. And then one day, this woman just happened to be visiting a friend in town and popped into his class and saw him and was blown away by him and introduced him to this opportunity that turned into this. That's the strength of weak ties. Facebook is about nothing if it's not about serendipity, coincidence, the happy accident, the shared admission. Quite simply, it's all about increasing one's chances of becoming the lucky victim of a happy accident. There was a study in the 1970s, it was called The Strength of Weak Ties. A lot of people don't know of the study. A lot more people know about the book that was written as a direct result of the study. It was a little book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. It fundamentally changed the way most people do business today. That book was written as a result of this study in the 1970s called The Strength of Weak Ties. What The Strength of Weak Ties showed unequivocally, and there are people who take fault with the methodology, but the idea of it has been repeated over and over and over again. What the study showed is that your success is dependent by far more on how many loose connections you have than any other factor. Like nothing even comes close. The more people who know about what you do and believe that you're good at what you do, the more your chances are to get lucky and become successful. How many times have you guys listened to a podcast with a person who's very successful in whatever business, fitness, whatever they're doing, says to you straight up, I'm lucky, I got lucky. Success is nothing but luck. How do you manufacture that? You could give yourself the largest opportunity to catch a lucky break. You do that by showing up every single day. You do that by engaging with as many people as possible. You do that by going to events like this and shaking as many hands as possible and connecting with people afterwards. That's why we put you guys in a Facebook group for attending this event. Go and become friends with people in that Facebook group. Right? That's why I tell people the absolute best thing you can do to market is to write a fitness status every single day about anything. And to have a messenger conversation with 5 people you haven't spoken to for a while, literally saying hi. Like, I have a textbook back there, and I have 6 different ways to market, and most people never look at any of the other methods, because the most powerful aspect of marketing, and the most powerful thing that you can do in marketing, by far, without question, is twofold. Message 5 people a day you haven't spoken to for a while, say hi to them, If you can't think of 5 people, go through your feed, look at somebody's posted something about anything. It could be fitness, it could not be fitness. Buddy is in a band that you haven't spoken to since high school, and they put up a video of their show. Like it, send them a message, say, hey, I just listened to your song, it was awesome. Now this person knows that you're a fitness professional. Because what happens with Facebook, well, Facebook has this way of showing you people that it thinks that you're interested in. It dictates that based off of your actions. The actions are most dependent on messenger conversations. You have a messenger conversation with somebody, you're going to see them in your feed the next day. So that happens the other way, right? None of this is new. Sure, you can do it on social media, but none of this is new. Psychology is not new. Like I said, you could listen to your friends and whatever they boast about is whatever they're not confident about. I mean, we all know this. But what really matters is that we take time to think about it. I was asked by Alex yesterday, we were chatting last night, just as we were kind of looking at the road, and he asked me what he thinks, if I can kind of pinpoint one thing that he thinks is the reason why I've had some success in whatever the heck it is that I do. And I said, it's because I'm taking time to think. It's because I'm taking time to walk away from the world. I always give this metaphor. If you're right up against a tree, all you can see is the bug. If you take 5 steps back, you can see a couple of trees. If you walk up the hill that overlooks the valley that the tree's in, you can see the path around. Right? We need to give ourselves the opportunity to have this bird's eye view. And that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Hey, John again, and thank you for listening to that. I hope that you enjoyed that talk. If you're looking for another episode to listen to right now, I'm going to recommend episode 84. It's called You're Over-Preparing. You know, I've seen a lot more people fail from a lack of sales than I've seen fail from a lack of a logo. And so if you're thinking that you need to do all of these things in order to start your business or get clients or put yourself out there, I'm here to tell you that that is just simply not true. And so I won't share any more because I want you to go have a listen to this episode, number 84. It's called You're Over-Preparing. Hope that you love it. Most of all, hope that it helps.